Hey guys, it's Kusi. Welcome back to the second part of our mission to ensure that Affliction will be a DPS to be reckoned with. In the last episode, we started our journey with the goal in mind to put Affliction finally on the map, participated in LFR that really didn't need us at all, gotten showered in the first raid ID with items, while getting absolutely shafted on the second one and opened up the vault to receive an item that I really got a lot less angry comments for than I expected. We also got ourselves the first set of crafted items to ensure we got enough HP to mess up, and we damn sure needed it. And we continued our grind to somehow remember this weird fever dream of a rotation to eventually become Gul'dan's proudest feb. While in this episode, we continue our grind towards the holy grail of keys. We also got a new weekly event to abuse, as well as a vault to open, because we already will encounter our first tyrannical week today. So grab a drink, make yourself comfy, and enjoy the episode. Alright, because I want to be transparent with you guys, I have to get something off my chest. The little teaser at the end of last video that was meant to blueball you a little bit, well, I may or may not deleted the original footage of that. I usually get rid of uncut recordings after a few days to ensure I have enough space to continue the recording and, well, I messed up. Turns out, when you try to delete big files and Windows asks you, are you sure we can't recover the shit anymore if you do, they actually mean that. So I just give you a quick breakdown on what happened and you just have to take my word for it. We pulled trash, the Demon Hunter complained. We pulled the boss, the Demon Hunter complained. We pulled too much trash, the healer and the Demon Hunter complained. We pulled the second boss, the Demon Hunter died in an instant, got rest, and then the healer got hit by those little dodgeballs and was out. He left, then we left, which brings us to this place. Same key, but 13, ain't no way this will be worse. Unfortunately, this started off a bit wonky. Either our tank got mad, distracted, or he had this weird interface bug where he couldn't use any abilities before reloading. Because on the first pull, we just all died while he was doing 9k DPS. So I guess the second assumption was more accurate here. But after that, we moved towards the boss while I was busy competing in DPS versus the tank. We drew in trash, but I beat him on single target. So who's the real winner here? But overpulling tanks and complaining healers seemed to be a normal thing here, cause this is pretty much what happened last run. Was I the same when I tanked this? Turns out, since I learned how to stay alive on my own, I became one of those assholes that doesn't care if he pulls too much. Well, second boss upon us, which quickly became a joy to be part of. Not sure how we managed this, but double slow ring. Now in hindsight, I could have pressed the healer here and potentially finished the fight with that setup, but I didn't believe. So I quickly made sure to remind my party how to play the rings, which maybe will come back to haunt me later. Get it? Because never mind. Second attempt and we slapped it without any issues, which led to me flexing on them fools with my neat and really useful gateway direct flight past the dragon. On the final boss, we once again ran into some issues, having only me to soak the barrage, which led to Chromie getting blasted New York style. So we went again. On bosses like this, I was really dreading the tyrannical setup with this little amount of boss damage I'm doing, but hey, we timed it, even though it was only +1, so we continued our mission. I lowered my key from 14 to 13 for whatever reason, and I also invited the demo lock in here to show this meta slut whose house this is. His house. This was absolutely his house and I was paying rent like a little bitch. Now even though this was just a one chest, we only had 9 deaths on the board, which probably just means we lacked the damage to do it quicker. But because 13 seemed to be a cursed number for my runs so far, I opted to do some more of those. Atal'Dazar this time, and boy was I focused on this one. I really wanted to start getting more used to this spec, because I was already getting a little bit annoyed at myself for being so garbage. Though it was in pulls like these that I really anticipated my 4 set just for some extra seed damage. I tried very hard to be able to compete with this Demon Hunter and every now and then I was able to. Not on bosses usually, unless we had lust rolling. Affliction may be a bit harder to play than Demo, but goddamn, that's some serious damage for sure. Keep in mind, I do not have an unused trinket, no 4 set, am only 449 item level and I'm dog shit, so this number ain't too bad. But he schooled me on overall meters, so we still got a long way to go. We 3-chested this one, but I wasn't mentally ready for my first 16 yet, so I lowered it again, but I stopped at 14, #progress. Everbloom this time and I really enjoyed this dungeon as a DPS. Loads of big pulls, not many annoying mechanics to be dealt with, and bruh. This tank also was a fan of big pulls, so as long as he was able to stay alive, he kept them coming. Until this big bulky bush of pubes decided to eradicate the entire party with one blow. At least we learned from that, so it won't happen again. Never mind. Though chain pulling accidents kept being an issue in this run. since the tank really enjoyed pulling something new last second, so they start off with a bolstering buff or two, which, you guessed it, wasn't enjoyable for the rest of the party. Third boss, 20 deaths while at least 16 of them could have been easily avoided, but at this point I was just happy to finish it in time. Maybe I even get a cheeky trinket from the end of the run for my troubles, who knows. So we finished it barely with 2 minutes left, and because I beat the tank in overall damage, I didn't get any items. Clearly Blizzard thinks I don't need them. The last dungeon before the reset was yet again a Galakrond's Fall, but I was determined to not have a wonky wipe fiesta like before, and my tank agreed, while already giving me the commands to take this as serious as we could. We started the key and I got my first taste of next level gameplay by actually skipping trash, without anybody adding anything. Gotta be world first. Needless to say, this team of absolute gigachat gamers and me had no business in doing this slow, so we pulled, killed, and pulled again. Another use of my secret gateway jutsu and we were already off to the third boss. But not before I make things spicy on the second boss while putting down a slow ring for everyone to enjoy. On the last boss, I finally got hit by a mechanic that I think I never had to deal with in my life. Probably because I played 90% of my keys as tank so far. When targeted by Extinction Blast, you need to take cover in Chromie's shield, and this is the part that I knew. What I didn't know is that Chromie will actively make a move towards the one targeted, to make it easier. I had no idea about this, and you can tell by me already placing down portals towards Chromie to get there faster just in case. So I got targeted and jumped away from Chromie. But instead of just dying by myself or putting Soulstone on myself to make it look like it was on purpose, I ensured to at least take someone with me. Second attempt, I got targeted again, and would you look at that. We are gaming out here. We got rewarded for being probably the worst gamer in the party with an item that I can't really use. Again, I think this is the third item that I am unable to make use of due to either being tier set or in this case, a missing piece. But like I mentioned, this was the last run for this reset, so we eagerly await the next vault. Am I the only one who gets excited for vault on new characters? Best day of the week. With 3 dungeon slots, 2 of them on hero quality and 3 potential LFR goodies, I was certain we get something of use. When realizing my first 2 options, that were also the highest ones by far, I already opted out all the LFR pieces, so we are talking about 467 C-Star or Hands. The C-Star clearly is an upgrade from both of my trinkets, but it is yet again a passive proc. The Hands would mean I could use the 2 charges I have left on the Catalyst to finally put on Forset. However, because I also could use the charges on a potential different item, I was unsure. So I simped those 2 quickly and found out that the C-Star, even on AoE, is just a mere 2.5% upgrade from what I have currently, while the Forset is an easily 25% upgrade to my overall damage. And with that, the decision was rather easy. Quickly turned my pieces into Forset, and with that, this happy boy was ready to start this new week. Now before we get into our first tyrannical cycle, there are 2 more things I need to mention. First, we got the time walking event going, which means we will obtain the free normal raid item for blasting through 5 time walks. The second thing is, we got buffed, baby! Seed flat out 10% increase and Dark Harvest got restored to its former glory, not only increasing the amount of haste and crit for each Soul Rod target by 1.5%, but also adding another target to it, which will give us flat 20% haste and crit on a 5 mob party. That's insane and will probably lead to us going down in haste a little bit and rather stack more mastery or crit. But since I'm not a warlock main and just some random ass dude that pretend to understand the class to a certain extent already, I leave that to the good players to figure out. Now naturally the first thing we did was crushing those mentioned time walk runs for extra raid loot, so I wasn't really that hopeful for a banger item and just rather wanted at least something of use. And boy did we get something of use. An almost 20 item level upgrade for shoulders, which really annoyed me. Because I could have gotten those before the vault to turn into Forset and still get the C-Star as a result. Ah well, you can't win them all. Another part of prep work before sending it was to make use of the new shard this week and got myself another crafted item. I also got myself another enchanted Worm's Crest, and with that, we received a stacked and juiced up 476 belt. Now we are ready. 12th Throne of Tides, and I hear you ask, why 12? You did a 15 last week, don't you have a higher key in your pockets? And you're right. But absolutely no one likes this dungeon. Even my grandmother would dislike this dungeon and she loved everyone and everything. So I put it down to 12. I will keep this one short since nothing really happened, but I'll take this time to quickly tell you guys about the week's affixes. As I mentioned earlier, Tyrannical is this week's burden, and because that ain't enough, we got Incorporeal. This one is pretty much Blizzard's attempt to AFK check DPS players once in a while. by force spawning 1 or 2 mobs that need to be CC'd with a long duration control. Fear, trap, sleep, mind control, you name it. Fortunately as Warlock, we pretty much could handle all of them at the same time, so no biggie for us, as long as we can cast, of course. The second additional affix this week is Spiteful, which are little semen demons that spawn once a trash mob dies. For us specifically, those bastards trigger Soul Flame when they die, so extra damage for everything that remains. Now, like I said, easy key. 2 chests with only 1 death, so we continue to the next, which is, again, Galakrond's Fall.
You're joking.
I know. Do something different for once, right? But I legit spent half an hour to get into a Waycrest Manor or a Morrison's Rise ski without any success. So don't blame me on that. However, in this run, I figured out something mind-blowing. For some reason, I did not equip my Faucet. The tank also had a wild idea to just pull the boss alongside the last trash bag, which was quite fun. Wish my Faucet could have seen that. I quickly reported my stupidity to the party, which got me a casual drive from the shaman saying I also forgot to spec Demo. And with that, I realized that my job ain't over until Affliction is the go-to for Warlock specs. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't feel much difference in having Faucet or not, though I mainly played it poorly for the most part, because now I was forced to make sure I got enough shards to spend after Soul Rot. What I did feel though was a 20% haste buff, because this felt so much more bursty now. I compared a handful of Radar.io profiles and I assumed they were testing out, taking away either Haunt, Dark Lair, or Tormented Crescendo in order to get a point for Dark Harvest. For those dungeons I went without Dark Lair, which obviously felt really bad in single target fights. After killing the final boss in record time, I took this 3 chest and I was ready to send my first 17 this series. For gear farming purposes, 17 is a nice way to get hero items quickly, since this is the lowest difficulty for those drops. And because it's tyrannical, I feel like there aren't many dungeons that are easier than Black Rock Cold. There's nothing that can really kill you, unless you just ignore moving, and even though I was certain I will do affliction things on some packs, everyone else also did affliction things, but a lot better. And just to top it off, the final boss really wanted to mess with me by placing this little sack nibbler onto me so I can't cast for shit. Honestly, I did not expect this to be as smooth, but having good players really helped. I know, shocker, right? We also got boots from this key, giving us a whopping 30 item level upgrade and this. Cool, I guess? From this rather quick run, we got ourselves a neat 19 attack Azar, and you know me, I bitched out, so 17 it is. My tank in this run thought he should be writing guides for dungeons because he seemingly tried something new here. Usually on Tyrannical, I've seen most groups just jump down and kill Razan ASAP, just to get Lust on cooldown and then clear the extra percentage you would need later. Not this one though. We went left, killed 2 packs, then jumped down, and then we only took those 2 birds and pulled the boss. Alright, if it works, it works. We trained on Razan last episode too, so this one would be a walk in the park, and yo, I want to replay on that. You're telling me I'm in? Come on, bruh. Disregarding, besides this incident and one more, this was a rather eventless and clean run until the very end of the last boss fight. This is just becoming an how long can we get carried before anybody noticed challenge at this point. So much more to learn, so much better to become. Yet because of Blizzard's rewarding system of usually giving the most underperforming player loot, we got an item again which would be a big upgrade, but unlucky. So I can and probably will use this eventually. And even if you think, oh, this is just going way too smooth, I got something for you. 19 Morrison's Rise is the key we got, and it sorta went like this.